Hello, beautiful people. It's Catherine coming today to share an interesting topic that is very relevant to what we're going through right now on a global basis. I wanted to talk about an evolutionary perspective on anxiety. So, how many of you, either on live or replay, how many of you have been feeling some sense of anxiety? And anxiety oftentimes is a sensation. Well, it's something that is lived in the body. It can create, heart palpitations, sweats, just the mind going on endlessly with thoughts and maybe some not nice scenarios in the vision. So usually anxiety is an anticipation for something in the future, something that we don't want to happen, something bad that might happen. And right now, there's so much uncertainty in the world with what's going on with this pandemic that I would say most people have been prone to feelings of anxiety, and especially people who were already feeling that anxiety. And I want to say that in our current population, in developed countries, the rates of anxiety disorders and depression and just dysfunction on the mental health level has been just increasing in over the past few decades, if not 100 years. And I remember when I was studying to be a nurse back in my undergraduate degree at McGill University, I remember reading an article that really stayed with me. And this is why I wanted to share this with you. It is also tied to a trip that I've done in India and actually in Ladakh in 2003. So let me start with that trip quickly, that story. So I was a nursing student back then in 2003, and I went on a trek in Ladakh, which is northern India. It's between Pakistan and China. So there's a lot of Tibetan people in Ladakh. Ladakh actually means Little Tibet. Tibetan people who came into India in the 50s to survive, basically. And so I was doing a medical trek with medical students. I was the only nursing student, so we would do clinics out in the open. So we would trek for days to reach a village, and then we would do clinics out in the open with the population and practicing our diagnostic skills without, x-rays or blood tests or anything. And we had residents and a staff doctor, so we would regroup together and learn just like, the medical students are doing in the hospital. So that was such a big learning experience. But one of the most shocking thing that I remember was that in all these villages, which are isolated from each other for 9 months out of the year, there was hardly anybody who was suffering from anxiety or depression. It was all like musculoskeletal, like they were having shoulder pain just from working the field so much, or they were having skin infections or parasites or eye problem because of the sun, or, we've diagnosed like 1 or 2 cancers, advanced cancers. So it wasn't until we reached a much more developed town, and there was an actual hospital, and I think we spent like 3 days there working with the local doctor who really appreciated our help. And that's when we started to see cases of anxiety and depression, which we were not seeing in the villages that are completely isolated, but who lives, in a self-sufficient manner, and they have the protection of the clan. So I think you might know where I'm going with this. So coming back to this article that I remember reading in my undergraduate degree as a nurse, is anxiety came into our population as a symptom of isolating from each other. So anxiety, which is kind of the alarm system of the mind and the body, is actually a survival mechanism that, you know, informs us when there's a threat and we need to do something about it, either fight, freeze, or flight, you know. And because of the way that we have evolved as societies, living, you know, separated, not even knowing our neighbors anymore, living kind of, you know, just for ourselves and not collaborating and exchanging with the greater clan, what that did in evolution, in actually a very short time, really, since the industrialization and the rise of consumerism, is it decreased the threshold of when the alarm is started, you know, is set off for anxiety. Meaning so if the threshold is lower, it means that it's going to take a much smaller stimuli in order to trigger the anxiety, because we have lost the protection of the clan, the protection of, you know, our extended family, the interdependence that we used to have, knowing that, well, it doesn't matter if I don't know how to get milk because my neighbor has some, and I can bring my neighbor some corn because my neighbor doesn't grow corn, you know. So I think that this is a fantastic time right now to think about these things, right? So why is it that anxiety and depression have been so prevalent in our society, in our, you know, developed society? I mean, when I used to work as a nurse practitioner, probably 30 to 40% of my practice was depression and anxiety, and prescribing medication for that. But I think it really goes deeper than that. And if we look at the evolution, like what I've been suggesting here, it totally makes sense that in the midst of a global pandemic where anxiety is raging to the top, in a lot of, you know, and this is what's going on for a lot of people, it makes sense to come back to the principle that brings this mechanism of survival to a more functional level, meaning rising the threshold of when the anxiety and the panic button goes off. And how do we rise the threshold, right? How do we rise the threshold so we're not feeling constantly stuck in anxiety? Well, it's a great question, right? So if we follow the same logistic, to rise the threshold would mean to start living in interdependence again, to reconnect with neighbors and extended family and create that sense of security of the clan. Now, how do we do this while we're on confinement, right? We can't even see anybody or hug them or feel that physical closeness. Well, thank God we have technologies to help be in contact. So I would invite you, you know, who is it that you haven't spoken in so long? You just give them a call or get on you know, FaceTime or Zoom with them. And it's also a calling to go within and to meet yourself. Because how many of us have been living our life outside of ourselves, just going with the flow of like the go, need to do this, need to do that, need to make money, need to go there, and then numbing ourselves on the digital, you know, apparatus, and not being aware of what's going on. So if you're feeling a surge of anxiety right now, this is an invitation to go in, to go within, and to go explore that. Anxiety is a messenger. It's not the problem. It's something that comes to tell you there's something out of alignment here, and it's time for you to look at your life and how you're living your life. And is it in alignment with how you want to feel and how you want to live your life, right? So there's that part to do with yourself, to go within, to be brave and courageous enough to face these things. And so that's the inner part, which is what humanity is being called to right now. We have to ascend to new energies and get out of the ego and, you know, go within, heal the wounds, heal this, you know, the fear-based energies. And if you need help with that, this is what I do with my clients. Because nobody wants to go and see their gunk by themselves. I didn't. I had my own coaches and mentors. So that's what you can do on your side to go within and to face that which is perhaps scary, but once you learn to face it, it's not scary. It becomes your gift. It becomes an empowering energy to move you forward. So that's what you can do on the individual level. Now, on a collective level, in order to raise the threshold of anxiety, reconnect, make some bonds, collaborate. Think about the ways that you want this planet to collaborate instead of, being in competition. My last video, I was talking about going from survival of the fittest to survival of the most loving, because evolution requires cooperation. That's how, cells in biology have been doing it for, millions of years. And when the unicellular, so the one cell organisms were, thriving and reproducing themselves, and then they started to notice, oh, we're kind of bumping against each other. And then they started to be scared, is there going to be enough resources for me? They had to go one rung up the evolution ladder and join together into multicellular organisms. And that's how the human being was born. So now, as conscious, thinking human beings, we are called to climb up the next rung of the evolution ladder. And we have to come out of fear-based energy and come together in this global community. And if we can't do this right now because of the confinement, there's nothing that's preventing us from doing it in our own minds, in visualizing what we want this world to look like. Everything is created twice in the law of creation or manifestation, or however you want to call it. First, it's created in your mind, in vibration, in the senses, in the feelings of how you want this world to be. Dream that. And then it's created in the material world. So this is my call to you in order to raise the threshold of anxiety so it doesn't fire off so much, and to go within. And if you need help with this, I'd be more than happy to support you with this. This is what I've been training for all my life, really. And when I'm guiding clients through these processes, and they're feeling so free and liberated from, fear, guilt, anxiety, just these dark energies that were keeping them from, living a life of lightness, of joy, of connection, of expressing their truth. I'm like, every time I see someone being liberated like this, I'm like, hallelujah, bring me more, because this is what humanity is being called to do right now, is rise above the fear-based energies, come together in a collective. And it starts with each and every one of you and myself. So I've been doing the work on myself quite a bit in the background. So let me know if this resonates with you. Let me know if you're feeling some anxiety, or perhaps some people in your family are living through some anxiety, and perhaps it's paralyzing, or it's being dysfunctional, or even creating physical symptoms, right? Some heart palpitations, some muscle tension, some pain. Thanks, Renee. Hey, nice to see you here. So let me know, and I'd be more than happy to support you. This is a critical time for us to rise and ascend quickly and liberate that which has been holding us down to like dense energies. So I see in my many intuitive visions that, after this crisis, there's a much higher level of order that will be there, and we must be ready for it. We must be ready to ascend to these energies, because if we're not, if we're not ready, it's like if we're not ready to receive something, well, we're not going to receive it because the portal is not open, right? So what can you do today to become more available to creating that best version of yourself and creating the world in which you want to live and you want to see your children and your parents live? So hope that resonates. Let me know your thoughts, and let's go back into our hearts, release the fear-based anxiety energies, and love. Go into love. Love always wins. So, all right, you guys, I hope this was helpful. Take care, and I talk to you soon.